Well, we're in that series, Running with the Giants, the heroes of faith, from that scripture that we are surrounded by such a great cloud of witnesses to our life. Those witnesses being the people that have gone before us, the people we talked about who are really normal people like you and I, but who said yes to God and who God did amazing things through. And as we run the race that we are on today, you and I, in serving the Lord, if we could have a conversation with some of those heroes of the faith, with some of those people, if we could learn some of the lessons from their life, what would they tell us? And today we're going to look at the life of Abraham. Abraham, the patriarch of our faith, the father, really you could say the father of our faith, Father Abraham. And we are where we are today. We are blessed because of Abraham and his faith and what God did in his life. And looking at Abraham's life, there are four things that you and I can learn this morning that I want to share with you. Number one is knowing this, is that God always does the right thing, even when what he says seems absurd. Even when it seems crazy. Because at times God is going to tell you to do something crazy. He's going to tell you to do something absurd. He's going to tell you to do something that doesn't make sense. Sarah and Abraham, they were up there in age. They weren't young whippersnappers. They weren't these young newlyweds. They were old, for lack of a better term. They were old. And there was a promise that generations were going to be blessed, that a lineage was going to come through Abraham and Sarah. The problem was they didn't have any children. Sarah could not get pregnant for whatever reason. And now they're old. But there's a promise, but they're old. There's a promise, but there's an impossibility. There's a promise, but there's a question of how God is going to make the promise happen. And what happened is, in the story, visitors from heaven, they come to meet with Abraham. And they say in Genesis 18, verse 9, "Where is Sarah, your wife?" "She's inside the tent," Abraham replied. Then one of them said, "I will return to you about this time next year, and your wife, Sarah, will have a son." Sarah was listening to this conversation from the tent. Abraham and Sarah were both very old by this time. And Sarah was long past the age of having children. So she laughed silently to herself and said, "How could a worn-out woman like me enjoy such pleasure, especially when my master, when my husband is so old?" I mean, that's some encouraging words right there. She said, "How can this happen? How can God do this miracle? How could I become pregnant?" Can we just be real this morning? No? You're going to be fake? No. Let's just be real. Sarah, she's standing behind the tent. She's probably thinking, man, I've seen him naked. I've seen him in the bedroom. It's over. I mean, come on, let's just be real. There was no Viagra. There was no in vitro. There was no other option. Sarah, 89 years old. Abraham, 99 years old. And they're supposed to go have a baby? Just think about it. They didn't have medical help. Right? It's like, oh, God said we're going to have a baby. Let's make an appointment they couldn't do that. It wasn't even a thought. She's in the tent. Because we think, well, she didn't have faith. No, she's just being real. She's doing exactly what you and I would be doing. It ain't going to happen. It ain't going to happen. God said, buy the house. I don't got no money. How's that going to happen? God said, buy the business. that ain't going to happen. God says, do this. I don't even have an education. And we laugh at what God calls us to do. We laugh at the promise. And that's what Sarah did. She laughed. She was normal just like you and I. But let me tell you, God is looking for people with what I call some crazy faith. Because it was crazy faith to believe that 99-year-old Abraham was going to get 89-year-old Sarah pregnant, especially when they were trying probably all their life before, and now at 99 and 89 years old, she was going to have a baby. You say, why would God do that? Why would God wait till he was 99 and she was 89? Why not do it earlier? It's because when God moves in our life, he wants people to know without a shadow of a doubt that it was his power working. His power working in our life. And there would be no doubt that if she got pregnant, that it was a miracle from heaven. Man, 89-year-old Sarah walking around with that baby bump. Come on. Buying that stroller. Grandkids? Great-grandkids? Great-great-great-grandkids? No, it's our first. What did God tell Abraham in Genesis 18:14? Is anything too hard for the Lord? Is anything too hard? I read that and I thought, God likes a challenge. And then I told myself, there's nothing that can even challenge him. It's not a challenge. He's able to do whatever he wants to do whenever he wants to do it. He's almighty. He's all powerful. He will blow our minds if we let him. And today, whatever the promise, whatever the dream is that God has placed in your heart, that's the same word for you today. Is anything too hard for God? Is anything too hard for God? Is anything impossible for God? We watched that video. We're here. We're building in the pandemic. Things are crazy expensive. Things are hard to get. And I'm reminding myself, is anything too hard for God? Is anything too hard for God to do? The second thing we can learn from Abraham's life is this, is that God always does the right thing even if we question him. In the life of Abraham, there were cities there, Sodom and Gomorrah, and they were wicked. They were wicked cities, and God was going to bring judgment upon this city. But Abraham had the audacity to question God. And it says here in Genesis 18:23, Abraham approached him and said, "Will you sweep away both the righteous and the wicked? Are you going to judge both the righteous and the wicked?" Abraham questioned God. Let me tell you, if there's anyone that we can question, it's God. You say, why is that? Because God's not insecure. He's not going to get emotional on you. You got some friends like that? You question them. Well, you don't trust me? Why are you asking me that question? I told you I was going to do it. I mean, some husband and wives, you might be like that, right? Stop asking me questions. I'll get it done. I said I'll get it done. I'll get it done. Get all emotional. And then if there's anybody that we can question, it's God. He's not insecure. He's secure in who he is. Now, you may not like the answer that you get from God, but it's okay to question God. Because Abraham questioned God. And I think one of the most incredible things happened that you read about in the Bible when I look at this story. I think it's incredible because then Abraham began to negotiate with the creator of heaven and earth. God didn't just say, Abraham, shut up. I got it. Don't worry. That's not what he did. They began to negotiate. It was like, Abraham's like, God, if there's 50 righteous, would you spare? God's like, yeah, sure, why not? I'll spare for 50. Well, since you said 50, I mean, what if there was actually 40? 40. God's like, yeah, for 40 I'd spare. Oh, God, you seem to be in a good mood today, and I'm not trying to push anything, but I mean, just what if there was 30? 30. Yeah, for 30, yeah, sure, 30. Well, I mean, since you said 30, you must surely be willing to go to 20. 20? How many know God would probably be horrible if he sold something on Craigslist? You guys would just talk him down all the time. They're like, 20? Yeah, I'll do 20. Sure, 20. And God, well, Lord, if you're already doing 20, what if there's just 10? How about there's just 10? God's like, I'll spare the city for 10. If there was 10 righteous, how many know they couldn't find 10 righteous? But you know the most interesting thing about this is, when did God stop? He stopped when Abraham stopped asking. You know what I believe? I really believe this, that if Abraham would have said, God, what if there's one? If there's just one, would you spare the city? Because there wasn't even 10 and the city was destroyed. I believe that Abraham would have said, and it's a reminder to us today, don't stop asking. Don't stop asking. I don't know why Abraham stopped at 10, but he stopped at 10 when he could. Let me tell you, don't stop asking. Whatever God has placed on your heart, keep on praying for that. You might have been praying for the last 30 years. You're praying for your husband or your wife to come back to the Lord. You're praying for your kids. You're praying for the miracle. And you say, well, I've been asking God too much. No. Keep on asking. Keep on believing, because He's going to do the right thing. Even if we question Him, He's going to do the right thing. The third thing we look at in His life is this: God always does the right thing, even if we don't understand. Thank God for that. I'm glad I don't have to understand what God is doing, because I'd never be able to understand what He's doing. The greatest test that came for Abraham in his life was when God asked Abraham to sacrifice his son. Now, of course, God isn't into human sacrifice, and we know in the story that He didn't sacrifice his son. But here was the thing: God just wanted to see, was Abraham more in love with the promise, or was he more in love with him? Was he going to obey what God said, or was he going to rebel to keep his son alive? It was simply a test. And when you look at this point in Abraham's life, after everything he's gone through, he didn't question God. In fact, he didn't even doubt God. He simply got up that morning and he did what he was asked. See, after years of questioning, after years of negotiating, searching, and reacting, Abraham finally sought to simply be obedient. You know, when you look at his life, he learned the secret of what it means to walking with God, and it's to trust and to obey. To trust and to obey. As he looked back on his life, he knew that God had been faithful in every area. In every promise, God had been faithful. And I want to encourage us today is that we should not try to understand God until we first obeyed Him. Don't try to understand Him until you obey Him. And we can get stuck there in life because we're saying, well, God, I'll do what you say when I understand why you're asking me to do it. When I understand, then I'll do it. When I understand, then I'll get it done. And we get to that place. But let me tell you, I don't know how many times when I finally bit the bullet and I took that step of faith and I was obedient without understanding, and when I got to the other end of what God was telling me to do, I look back and I go, now I know exactly why you told me to do it. Now it all makes sense. It's amazing that understanding is on the other side of obedience, not the other way around. So sometimes when you understand what God's trying to do, you're like, whoa, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going, no. But when we just obey, we just take the step. We just say, God, I don't know why. It doesn't make sense. I don't know why I need to kill Isaac. I don't know why you're telling me to sacrifice him. This is the only son. I don't think there's going to be another. This is it. But if you told me to do it, I'm going to do it. The miracle was on the other side of obedience. And today, in your life, remember, God is going to do the right thing, even if you don't understand why He's asking you to do it. You don't understand why you're getting involved or serving in the church. You don't understand why you're taking that step in your job or stepping out in faith. I want to tell you, God's going to do the right thing. You don't understand why you're forgiving people that hurt you. You don't understand why you're letting go of the things of your past. Let me tell you, just be obedient. Trust and obey. And here's the last one this morning is that God always does the right thing, even if it takes a long time. When my kids were younger, we had a trip planned to Japan, and we went a lot more often back then, visit family. But when they were really young, we made the mistake of telling them early about a trip that was planned in advance. You know, it was like, hey guys, you know, in 3 weeks, Friday, in 3 weeks, we're going to Japan. Everybody's all excited, right? They're all excited, happy. But let me tell you what, for the next 3 weeks, they drove me absolutely crazy. Because, are we going yet? When are we going? Are we going? We're going? Friday. You said Friday, right? We're going Friday. We're like, no. 3 weeks from now. 3 weeks? What? Three? They're just little. 3 weeks? No, it's Friday. I thought you said this was Friday. Friday. No. 3 weeks. I want to go now. How come we're not leaving now? I don't even want to go. It's so junk. You said, you're not even taking us now. Should I pack? Should I pack this already? Should I pack? No. You need your clothes. We're still here for 3 more weeks. But should I pack this? No. And they drove me crazy. And I told my wife, I wish I never said anything. I should have told them the morning of, guys, we're going, pack, let's go. They drove me crazy. And here's the reason why. Nobody likes to wait. Nobody. I never heard anybody yet say, I love waiting. I love waiting. It's awesome. I love when God doesn't answer my prayers. Just wait. It's so cool. I love going to Disneyland. The lines are awesome over there. We stood in line for 3.5 hours and sweaty, and people were mad, and it was hot. The ride was okay, but the wait was just amazing. Can't wait. For years, I've told my wife, I ain't going to Disneyland because of the lines. And now there's a lot of other reasons why I ain't getting into that right now. But I ain't going. I hate to wait. And we live in this world where it's an instant society, right? Microwaves changed that. They got a microwave. We got shipping now. You order something. It's like when you order it, you want it yesterday. It's like, where is it? Checking that tracking number, right? It gets delayed a little bit. You're like, why isn't it here yet? It's been 2 days. We want things now. And the world that we live in, it's all marketed about what you can get instantly. And we've applied that even in our spiritual life. I tell you, God doesn't care. He has His clock. He has tamed His timetable, and He's going to do the right thing even if it takes a long time. I heard a pastor say this once, God is never late. He's always on time. We just wish that He'd be early once in a while. God doesn't care if you have to wait. He's sovereign. He's going to move on His schedule. And in Genesis chapter 12, verse 1, look at this. This is when the Lord called Abraham. His name was Abram at the time. He said, leave your country, your relatives, your father's family, leave everything behind. Go to the land that I will show you. I will make you into a great nation. I will bless you, make you famous. You'll be a blessing to others. I will bless those who bless you, curse those who treat you with contempt. All the families on earth will be blessed through you. You know, when Abraham received that promise, he was 75 years old. 75 years old. It was when he was around 85 years old that he was promised that he was going to have a son at 85 years old. And then he had to wait 15 years. When he's 100 years old, Isaac was born. There was a period of 25 years from when he received the first call of the Lord until he saw his son that was born. 25 years. In fact, in a period of about 10 years, you see that he left his family, his country. God promises to bless him, that he lives through a famine. He lies to Pharaoh. He gets into a conflict with Lot and with his family. They separate. He pursues Lot. He gets those back, and he goes through all of these ups and downs in his life, and still he has no son. Still, the promise hasn't happened. Even when you look at his life, he lived for 175 years that he was on this earth. There's just a couple of chapters that record where God moved in his life. Most everything else in his life was normal, waiting, nothing happening out of the ordinary. See, I think the most amazing thing about Abraham is not that he had a son when he was 100, it was pretty amazing, but it's not that he heard God or he had communion with Melchizedek, that he did all those things. I think the most amazing thing about him was simply the fact that he held on for 25 years. 25 years of not receiving the promise. You know, people can get really excited at the beginning of something. We're going to do it. Yeah. They get really excited when they see the finish line. Yeah, we're almost done. But let me tell you, it's the in-between that will wear you out. The in-between. You get married, you're excited. Yeah. Well, you shouldn't get excited when one of them goes. But you get to the end of your life and it's better, hopefully. Yeah. But the in-between. Happily ever after. Like, what happened to that? You got to work it out. You got to believe God. You need grace and you need mercy. And Abraham held on for 25 years. 25 years. But you know what he learned is that God will do the right thing even if it takes a long time. You know, we've been talking about this building for over 10 years. Back in the mall, it's like we're going to build this building. We're in the Prince Kuhil Mall back then. And it was exciting. And all the church was excited. And we were cheering. And people are giving. And we're taking offerings for that. And we're saving it up. And I'll tell you, I was naive. I thought it was going to be easy. I thought we were going to get that thing done really quick. Oh, did I learn? Did I learn? 10 years of ups and downs. You see, there was a vision. I knew God was calling us to do something great as a church, but I still had a wife, and I had kids, and I had life, and the church, and things happening, and ups and downs, and mistakes, and failures and victories. And the last 10 years of going through the up and the down, man, it wasn't as excited as when things started. It's like, we're going to build. Yes, we're going to build. We're going to get this done. We're going to put the church up. We're going to get it. Yeah, no. To get the plans, stall. Oh, this happened. That happened. This setback. I'm like, well, I don't know if we're supposed to do this. Start questioning. I don't know if we do this. Oh, I don't know if I want to do this. No. And then something good happens. You're like, yeah, oh, you know what? Yeah, all right, we're going to do it. God called us to, oh, God is working. Oh, it's a miracle. He's opening doors. No. Then the door comes. You're, oh, man, I don't know if we're going to do this. I want to quit. No. And then, no, something's it's working out. No, we can get the loan now. We're getting financing. We're getting this. No. All right, it's going good. Then I'll get in a big argument with my wife. I'm like, I don't even know if I should be pastoring. Why don't I do this? And this happened. No. And then other stuff in the family. You're like, I don't do this. And then something else would happen good. You're like, oh, yeah, you know, we're called to be here. Yeah, we're called to be here. We're going to do that. We're going to build. All right, guys, let's give. Let's sow. We're all giving. We're all sowing. And then somebody calls me. He's like, oh, you know, some people are talking about you guys. They say you're never going to build the building. You're actually going to take all the money, and you guys are just going to dig out to the mainland. I'm like, it's a pretty good idea. No. I'm like, really? Who's saying that? No, I don't want to know who's saying that. Why do people say that? They're saying that. Discouraged. Then you get another, this working out. So it's good. And then it's bad. And it's good. And it's bad. And it's good. And just a couple of months ago, it was bad. And they're like the loan and this and that. And I'm like, I'm done. I'm over. I'm on Zillow. I'm looking at houses in the mainland. I'm like, I'm out of here. Forget this. No. Don't forget what Dr. Sam Chan said. It's okay to say you quit as long as you don't quit. And I'll tell you, it's been ups and downs. Ups and downs. And I got other pastors say, man, wow, you guys are doing like that. I'm like, if you only knew. Looks good on the outside. It's ups and downs. You see, the in-between, if we're not careful, it's in the in-between that we're going to throw in the towel. It's in the in-between that we're going to call it quits. It's in the in-between where we lose sight of the promise and the call and the dream that God has given to you. And I believe that God's given some of you here some big dreams for your life. And you got really excited about it, but then the in-between came. And you think, oh, no, God didn't have a plan. That wasn't God's plan. He's not calling me to do that. I feel like quitting. Why would I feel like this if this is what God called me to do? Let me tell you, Abraham, for 25 years, he had to wait. And even Abraham tried to take things in his own hands. Remember, the servant got his servant girl pregnant to have a son. What was he trying to do? He was trying to force the miracle to happen. He was trying to make the miracle happen on his timetable rather than God's timetable. And I want to encourage you today, don't try to take it up. Don't speed up the process. Trust the Lord. Stay steady in the in-between. Keep going in the in-between. You say, yeah, but am I bad if I want to quit in the in-between? No, you're just human. You're just human. Get back up. Get back up. See, remember in Genesis 15, what did the Lord do? He spoke this to Abraham in a vision. He said, do not be afraid, Abraham, for I will protect you and your reward will be great. You know, in the in-between in our life, remember that He's our protector. Some of you, you're in between jobs, He's your protector. You're in between careers, He's your protector. You're in between seasons of life, He's your protector. But it's just having that spirit that although we may get discouraged at times, that we're not going to quit. See, in the kingdom of God, I love this. The race that we're running is simply this: as long as you finish, you win. It's that simple. I'm not trying to beat you. You're not trying to beat me. We're just all trying to get across that line. And as long as we finish, even when we're down, as long as we get back up and we just keep putting one foot in front of the next foot, you're like, I'm not even running, I'm crawling. As long as you're crawling towards that line, you're going to win. You're going to win. Don't quit. Don't give up. We need that same spirit like Caleb. Caleb, when he was 40 years old in the wilderness and the negative report came back, and they couldn't go into the land, but that land was promised to him. And when they finally went in 40 years later, I love Caleb's spirit. He goes, I'm just as strong today. He's 80 years old. He's like, I'm just as strong today as I was back then. Give me that mountain. Give me that mountain. He never lost faith. Abraham, he learned that God's going to do the right thing, even if it takes a long time.